An update on this big story making international headlines now. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has vowed not to give up territory in the east of the country in order to end the war with Russia. Moscow has given Ukrainian soldiers in the city of Mariupol an ultimatum to give up arms by 1 p.m. yesterday Sunday or die. The soldiers have ignored this. Now, the fall of Mariupol, which has already been razed to the ground, is seen as Russia, or would be seen as Russia's biggest conquest of the war, which has been ongoing now for about 7 weeks. For the latest on the ground, let's bring in Ukraine-based freelance journalist Adil Bradlow, who joins us via video link now. Adil, great to see that you're keeping safe. Thanks very much indeed for making time for us, especially in a context where we're hearing of more airstrikes in the early hours of what is morning here in South Africa, in the city of Kyiv, Lviv, and Odessa. What can you tell us?
So, as I understand it, there have been 5 missile strikes in Lviv. The reporting that I've heard is that these have been civilian infrastructure that have been hit, and unconfirmed reports that it could be the station, the train station in Lviv. Here in Kiev, I heard a couple of explosions this morning, around 7:30 in the morning, which would be about an hour and 2 hours ago. And I understand also in Odessa there have been missile strikes. So it seems to be quite a wide-ranging array of missile strikes early in the morning, with the Russians stepping up their campaign to hit key infrastructure in the run-up to their campaign in the Donbass.
And of course, what shouldn't be lost to us is that this is all taking place in a context where we're told some kind of talks and negotiations need to be unfolding in the backdrop. Difficult that to happen in a context where there's also so much contestation around Mariupol, where Russian soldiers have given Ukrainian fighters an ultimatum to drop their weapons or to essentially die. I mean, what can we read into that as people watching from our parts of the world, given what's already taken place in Mariupol?
Okay, so that deadline came and passed yesterday lunchtime, and the Ukrainians have said they're going to fight to the last man. I mean, Mariupol has become the symbol of defiance of the Ukrainians in this war, and it's turning into the Russian Stalin, the Russians' version of, or the Ukrainians' version of Stalingrad. They have been unable to take this giant steelworks, the Azovstal steelworks, which is in Mariupol. It's a giant factory, largest factory in Europe, over 11 square kilometers, and been pulverized and bombed using long-range bombers, missiles, grads, everything the Russians have, they've thrown at these guys, and they're still fighting. There were 2 separate units, two separate fronts in that war, but I understand that the Marines and the Azov battalion have now joined together, and they're planning their last stand in the steel factory.
Yeah. Russia also, I guess, giving warnings of intensifying their fight in the Donbass region. We know that part of the conditions, if you like, that Russia had put forward in order for this war to end is for part of that region to actually be considered Russian territory, for Crimea, which was annexed in 2014, to also be part of that package, for lack of a better term. Again, what kind of response do we expect from Ukraine, who, as you've mentioned, have already pointed out that they're willing to take this right to the very end?
Well, negotiations at the moment are a facade, really. There's no serious negotiation going on right now. The Russians have failed to take any key strategic points, and Mariupol, they've thrown everything at Mariupol, and they have to take it to at least show some kind of a victory. They're on the verge of taking it, and it's pretty likely that they will, and this will be their first significant strategic victory in nearly 2 months of war. I mean, from a point of view of the Russian military, this is a very poor show. They've shown a complete lack of an ability to operate by either concentrating their forces or using combined operations, and it's been an absolute disaster for the Russians. And although they've taken territory in the east, and they probably will take most of Donbass and the Luhansk area, this is not a war that they're ever going to win. Russia, with the sanctions that have been imposed, sooner or later it's going to start telling on the Russian economy, and the ability of the Russians to fund their war effort will be dramatically curtailed. And I mean, the irony is that, even though Putin is claiming that this is a war against neo-Nazis coming to liberate the Russian speakers from Ukrainian oppression and genocide. He's the one perpetrating the genocide. He's the one killing Russian-speaking Ukrainians right across the board. I mean, Kharkiv yesterday in the northeast, that took a serious pounding, and quite a few people died there. At least 5 in one incident. Mm-hmm. 3 ordnance engineers were killed clearing explosives. So the death toll keeps mounting, and the people who are dying in places like Kharkiv, in places like Kramatorsk, in places like Mariupol, are Russian speakers. So the Russians are killing their own people, so to speak.
Sure.
And Russian speakers here are at a loss to understand what is going on in Putin's mind.
Right. What is that doing, do you reckon, to the morale of Ukrainian soldiers who, as you've outlined in one way or the other, are actually taking a lot of blows?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, look, the sinking of the Moskva, for example, the Black Sea Fleet flagship ship, the sinking of that, and the defiance of the fighters in Mariupol. Mariupol will become the rallying cry of this war. It'll be, remember Mariupol, will be the call on the front line when they're taking on the Russians. And the Russians, they have no idea what's coming for them. They've appointed a new general, and they're hoping to concentrate their forces in and around the Donbass. But if they think this is going to be a cakewalk, they're in for a nasty shock, just as much as they were in for a shock when they tried to take the north and then were completely routed and had to run back to Belarus.
Sure. Really concerning, nonetheless, what's taking place in that part of the world. Thanks very much indeed for letting us in on what you know. Adil Bradlow is a freelance journalist, live to us there from Kyiv in Ukraine.